Chosen one, pause for a moment. I carry an urgent message today, and I say this without hesitation. This message is not for everyone. If you are not walking the divine path of God, if you are only curious but not committed, this is not for you. Only those who are truly chosen, truly aligned, and truly sensitive to God's voice will feel drawn to stay. And the fact that you are here right now tells me something important. This message reached you at the exact moment heaven intended. Not early, not late, perfectly timed. There was a moment in your life when you acted out of compassion, restraint, or obedience, and you thought it was small. Heaven did not think it was small. In ways you never imagined, you became part of a divine exchange. You helped preserve what God sent. You protected what heaven assigned. Yes, chosen one, you saved an angel without even knowing it. If you stay with me until the end, clarity will replace confusion. Peace will replace restlessness, and you will finally understand why certain moments in your life carried so much unseen weight. Before we go any further, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this confirmation. And comment 777 in the comments as a sign that you are aligned, awake, and ready to receive what God is revealing today. The unseen spiritual realm you walk through daily. Chosen one, there is a truth you must understand if you want peace instead of confusion. You are not only walking through streets, rooms, jobs, and relationships, you are walking through a spiritual realm every single day. It exists alongside the physical world, steady, ordered, and fully governed by God. Most people never sense it because they are spiritually asleep. But you are different, and you have always known that, even before you had language for it. The unseen realm is not chaotic, mysterious, or uncontrolled. It functions under divine authority. Angels are not myths or symbols created to comfort humanity. They are real servants of God, assigned with precision and released with purpose. They do not wander. They do not improvise. They operate under instruction. Many of those instructions involve guidance, protection, and intervention surrounding the lives of God's chosen ones. You may have noticed moments in your life when something shifted without explanation. A delay that saved you. A conversation that changed your direction. A warning in your spirit that made no logical sense but proved correct later. These moments were not imagination. They were interaction. The unseen realm was active around you, adjusting outcomes while you simply followed an inner nudge. God does not force awareness on his chosen. He trains them slowly. Sensitivity is developed through experience, not spectacle. That is why your life has carried moments of isolation, misunderstanding, and silence. Those seasons were not punishment, they were preparation. While others were distracted, you were being refined. Angels often move quietly because visibility is not their goal. Their purpose is obedience to God's will. They observe patterns, not appearances. They respond to alignment, not religious performance. Many speak loudly about faith, yet remain spiritually dull. You were shaped differently. Pressure sharpened you. Pain taught you restraint. Waiting taught you listening. Every day you pass through spiritual intersections. Small decisions that appear ordinary but carry eternal weight. Moments when heaven pauses to observe your response, not to judge you, but to witness the posture of your heart. Angels are often present in these moments, standing under assignment, watching how you choose mercy over anger, patience over reaction, obedience over impulse. This is why your conscience feels strong. This is why certain choices trouble you even when others see nothing wrong. This is why you step back when others rush forward. You are not weak. You are aware. Discernment is quiet strength. It does not shout. It does not rush. It listens. The unseen realm communicates subtly, through impressions, through restraint, through compassion that appears sudden but is divinely timed. Many angelic encounters do not involve light or voices. They look like ordinary human moments. A stranger crossing your path. A delayed decision. a calm response where chaos was expected. These moments matter more than you realize. God shields you from seeing everything. If the veil were fully lifted, fear would replace faith. You were never meant to know all things at once. Revelation comes in portions. Angels respect that boundary. They reveal only what God permits and hide what would distract you from your assignment. You are not alone in your daily walk. Heaven is active around you. Not dramatic, not loud, but steady and precise. God trusts you to move through this world with awareness, humility, and obedience. The unseen realm is not distant from you. You move through it every day, watched, guided, and protected, even when you are unaware. You have felt this protection before, even if you could not explain it. Times when something should have gone wrong but did not. Moments when harm was close yet never reached you. That is not luck. That is divine order. Angels operate within God's permission, and chosen ones often benefit from that order without being told every detail. This is why your life has never followed a simple path. You have experienced delays others did not understand, detours that felt frustrating at the time, endings that appeared unnecessary, but each redirection preserved something greater. Heaven sees beyond immediate outcomes. It sees purpose unfolding over time. Many people think spirituality is about seeing visions or hearing voices. In truth, it is about obedience in ordinary moments. It is about responding with integrity when no one is watching. Angels recognize this alignment. They are drawn to obedience because obedience mirrors heaven. You carry a spiritual weight that affects environments. When you enter certain spaces, tension shifts, conversations change, conflicts soften or intensify depending on alignment. This is not coincidence. The unseen realm responds to presence shaped by God. God trained you to sense when something is off. That discomfort you feel is not anxiety. It is discernment. It alerts you without alarming you. It protects you without isolating you. Angels often work through this awareness, guiding you away from danger without dramatic intervention. You may not feel powerful, but power in God's kingdom is quiet. It is controlled. It is disciplined. Heaven does not reward impulsiveness. It responds to steadiness. You were shaped to be steady. Even your exhaustion has meaning. Carrying awareness is tiring. Sensitivity requires rest. That is why God calls you to stillness more than noise. Angels operate best around those who know how to be still. The unseen realm does not compete for your attention. It supports your path. You are not expected to chase signs. You are expected to walk faithfully. God reveals what matters at the right time. Chosen one, trust what you sense. Not every feeling is spiritual, but your spirit has been trained to recognize truth. You are not given this awareness to fear the unseen, but to move confidently within it. As you continue your daily walk, remember this: you are never as alone as you feel. Heaven surrounds obedience. Angels move quietly around alignment, and God watches over you with intention, not accident. This understanding should not make you anxious. It should bring you peace. God never reveals truth to burden his chosen. He reveals it to anchor them. When you realize that heaven has been involved in your life all along, confusion begins to fade. Fear loses its grip. Doubt quiets down. You begin to see that your journey was never random. The timing, the protection, the restraint, all of it was intentional. You were guided even when you thought you were wandering. You were guarded even when you felt exposed. Angels did not replace your free will. They supported it under God's authority. The unseen realm works best when you remain grounded. Stay present. Stay humble. Stay obedient. You do not need to search for angels. You do not need to chase experiences. Simply walk faithfully. God entrusted you with awareness because he knew you would not misuse it. You were chosen to move gently through a world that often moves recklessly. That is your role. That is your strength. And as long as you remain aligned, heaven will continue to work around you, quietly, faithfully, and precisely, exactly as God intended. Nothing about your path has been accidental, overlooked, or forgotten. God has accounted for every step, every pause, and every choice you made, even the ones you questioned in silence before him. How an angel can be saved without breaking God's law. Chosen one, let me bring clarity here, because this truth must be understood correctly or it loses its power. When I say you saved an angel, I am not speaking about salvation in the human sense. Angels do not sin, repent, or seek redemption. They do not fall and return. God's law is perfect, complete, and unbroken. Nothing you did violated divine order. What occurred was lawful, intentional, and deeply aligned with how God designed heaven and earth to work together. Angels operate under strict divine authority. They are assigned tasks with limits, timing, and purpose. They do not act independently. They do not override free will. They do not improvise. Everything they do flows from instruction. God in his wisdom established a system where human choice matters. Not because angels lack power, but because God values willing obedience over forced outcomes. This is where many believers misunderstand spiritual order. Heaven does not force alignment where free will is involved. When an angel is sent into a situation that includes a human decision, the outcome depends on that human's response. Angels cannot compel restraint. They cannot force humility. They cannot override rebellion. They can only operate where alignment exists. There are moments when angels are assigned to protect, preserve, restrain, redirect, or prevent something God values. Often, these assignments intersect with what appears to be an ordinary decision in your life. A response, a pause, a choice to speak or remain silent, a choice to react or hold back. These moments are never as small as they appear. When you choose obedience over impulse, mercy over anger, humility over pride, you create spiritual permission. That permission allows an angelic assignment to continue uninterrupted. When alignment holds, heaven remains active. When alignment collapses, heaven steps back, not in failure, but in obedience to God's law. This is where the word saved becomes accurate. You did not rescue an angel from harm. You preserved an assignment from disruption. You allowed what God sent to complete what God intended. That preservation matters in heaven, even when it goes unnoticed on earth. Angels cannot remain where disorder takes over, not because they are offended, but because divine structure requires order. If anger replaces restraint, if pride replaces humility, if rebellion replaces obedience, angels must withdraw. This is not punishment. It is precision. Think back to moments when you almost reacted but didn't. Almost said something damaging but stayed silent. Almost walked away but paused. Almost ignored an inner warning, but listened. Those moments were intersections between heaven and your will. In those moments, angels were present on assignment. They were not struggling. They were waiting, watching your posture. When you chose alignment, the assignment moved forward. That is what you preserved. Scripture speaks of people encountering angels without knowing it, and this truth goes deeper than physical appearances. Many angelic interactions are not visible. They are participatory. Angels move freely where obedience exists. They withdraw where alignment is broken. Your posture mattered more than your awareness. God often hides spiritual mechanics to protect humility. If you had seen everything happening in those moments, pride or fear might have replaced obedience. Instead, God allowed you to act freely. Heaven honored the outcome, not the awareness. There are also moments when angels are assigned to protect others through your restraint. A conflict that did not escalate. A situation that softened unexpectedly. A delay that prevented loss. In those moments, angels completed their role because you did not interfere with the flow God established. This does not make you powerful by worldly standards. It makes you trustworthy. Heaven does not seek loud faith. It seeks steady obedience. Angels are drawn to order, discipline, and humility, not performance, not noise. When you aligned, you did not command heaven. You cooperated with it. That cooperation allowed the assignment to continue without resistance. This is why it happened quietly. God does not announce obedience. He records it. Many people believe spiritual importance must look dramatic. In truth, the most significant spiritual moments are often silent. Heaven measures restraint more than action. Angels observe character more than confidence. Silence can carry more authority than words. You did not break God's law. You fulfilled your role within it. You did not seize authority. You submitted to divine order. That submission preserved what heaven sent. That is why God trusted you in that moment. Understand this clearly. God did not need you, but he chose to involve you. That is honor, not pressure. Angels are not dependent on humans, but their assignments may intersect with human obedience. When alignment exists, heaven moves smoothly. When it does not, heaven waits. This is why that moment in your life carried more weight than you realized. This is why obedience mattered more than understanding. You were not being tested to fail. You were being trusted to align. You saved an angel by remaining obedient. You preserved an assignment by choosing restraint. You upheld divine order by listening instead of reacting. That is lawful. That is holy. That is precise. Do not let this truth create pride. God is not elevating ego. He is revealing value. Your choices matter. Your restraint matters. Your posture matters. Chosen one, when this truth settles, confusion fades. You stop minimizing moments heaven never minimized. You stop questioning silence God used intentionally. You stop doubting obedience God honored quietly. And once you truly understand this, you will realize something powerful. Heaven has always been closer than you thought. Chosen one, this understanding is meant to settle you, not burden you. God is not revealing this to increase pressure on your life. He is revealing it to bring clarity and peace. When you realize that heaven responds to your obedience, you stop feeling insignificant. You stop believing your quiet choices do not matter. You begin to see that God has always been working with you, not around you. This is why your spirit often feels heavy after moments of disobedience and light after moments of restraint. Your spirit recognizes alignment even when your mind does not. Angels operate within that alignment. They are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to sincerity. They respond to hearts that listen more than mouths that speak. God trusts those who can hold authority without announcing it. That is why he trusted you, not because you are flawless, but because you are teachable. Not because you are loud in faith, but because you are steady in obedience. Heaven values consistency more than intensity. You may never know every assignment your obedience protected. Some things were stopped before they ever reached you. Some outcomes were softened before you ever noticed danger. Some paths were redirected quietly. Angels completed those tasks without you seeing them because God wanted you focused on walking, not watching. Let this truth remove doubt from your spirit. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are not delayed without purpose. You are not overlooked. Heaven has accounted for your choices, your restraint, and your obedience. And as you continue forward, remember this. God does not reveal responsibility without providing strength. He does not reveal truth without providing peace. Walk gently. Stay aligned. Heaven knows where to find you. The moment you did not realize was a heavenly test. Chosen one, there was a moment in your life that did not appear spiritual at all. It did not feel holy, dramatic, or important. It felt ordinary, inconvenient, emotional, or uncomfortable. That is why you missed what it truly was. That moment was a heavenly test, and heaven did not announce it. Heaven never does. God does not test his chosen ones the way humans test each other. He does not give advance notice. He does not explain the purpose beforehand. He does not create obvious spiritual environments filled with signs and confirmations. He hides tests inside daily life because he is not measuring knowledge. He is measuring posture. That moment arrived quietly. It came through pressure, irritation, misunderstanding, or delay. Someone may have spoken carelessly. Someone may have disrespected you. Someone may have accused you unfairly. Or maybe nothing external happened at all, and the battle took place entirely inside you. An urge to react, a desire to defend yourself, a pull toward anger. That was the test. Heaven was not watching your emotions. Heaven was watching your response. Angels were present, not to interfere, but to observe. They were not there to rescue you from discomfort. They were there to witness alignment. You may remember a pause inside you, a brief hesitation where you could have reacted but did not. That pause was not fear. It was discernment. God created space for choice. He always does. That space is where tests are passed or failed. Some of you had failed similar tests before. You reacted quickly. You spoke harshly. You defended yourself aggressively. God did not discard you. He trained you. Every failure sharpened awareness. Every mistake refined restraint. By the time this moment arrived, you were more prepared than you realized. This test may have felt unfair. You had the right to explain yourself. You had the right to speak. You had the right to correct the situation. But heaven was not measuring rights. Heaven was measuring trust. God wanted to see whether you trusted him enough to remain still, whether you trusted him enough to let him handle the outcome, whether you trusted him enough to choose peace over control. That kind of trust cannot be faked. It only appears when ego is quiet. Angels observe silence differently than humans do. Humans see silence as weakness. Heaven sees silence as confidence. When you remained quiet, angels did not see defeat. They saw authority under discipline. Some of you felt unsettled afterward, not because you failed, but because you changed. You broke an old pattern. You responded differently than your past self would have. Growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels peaceful. Heaven marked that moment, not audibly, not publicly, but permanently. Alignment was recorded. Trust was confirmed. That is why certain protections increased afterward. That is why some dangers never reached you. That is why certain doors quietly closed. You may have questioned later why that moment felt heavy. Nothing dramatic happened, yet it lingered in your spirit. That weight was spiritual. Tests carry weight because outcomes extend beyond what you can see. This test was not about perfection. It was about direction. God was not asking for flawlessness. He was asking for alignment. Angels were not present to judge harshly. They were present to witness obedience. Some of you passed by walking away. Some passed by choosing forgiveness internally. Some passed by praying instead of reacting. The method did not matter. The posture did. You were not aware heaven was watching, and that is why your response was pure. God protects the integrity of his tests by hiding them. If you had known what was at stake, pride might have entered. Fear might have interfered. Instead, you acted from instinct shaped by obedience. This is why God allows chosen ones to be misunderstood, not to punish them, but to refine them. Misunderstanding reveals whether validation controls you or trust anchors you. That moment also revealed something important. You were no longer reactive. You were responsive. Reaction is impulse. Response is maturity. Heaven recognizes the difference immediately. Do not revisit that moment with regret. Do not wonder if you should have done more. Heaven does not reopen tests you passed. What felt like restraint was actually promotion. What felt like silence was actually authority. What felt like loss of control was actually trust gained. You were not being tested to break you. You were being tested to prepare you. God does not promote what he has not tested. Angels do not move assignments forward without confirmation of posture. Chosen one, that moment mattered. More than you understood then. More than you understand now. It was quiet. It was simple. It was powerful. And heaven has not forgotten it. That test also shaped how heaven trusts you moving forward. God does not repeat lessons unnecessarily. When alignment is proven, responsibility increases quietly. After that moment, you may have noticed that your reactions slowed, your discernment sharpened, your tolerance for chaos decreased. This was not emotional withdrawal. It was spiritual maturity forming. Heaven saw that you could be trusted with influence without misusing it. That matters deeply in God's order. Many desire authority, but few can carry it without letting ego lead. That moment showed heaven that you could hold power without announcing it. Angels recognize this quality immediately. You may have noticed that certain people drifted away afterward. Conversations changed, connections weakened. This was not loss. It was separation. Tests often mark transitions. When posture changes, environment must adjust. God does not remove people to punish you. He removes what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Some of you also felt a strange peace mixed with confusion afterward. Peace because you obeyed. Confusion because you did not understand why obedience felt costly. That is normal. Obedience often feels expensive in the moment but saves far more in the future. Heaven sees outcomes you cannot yet see. That test also confirmed something about your identity. You are not governed by emotion alone. You are led by discernment. That is rare. Many are controlled by impulse. Few are anchored by wisdom. God values those who can pause. Angels move more freely around those who are not reactive. Reaction creates spiritual noise. Noise disrupts order. Your restraint created clarity. Clarity allowed heaven to continue working without interference. This is why you should not envy those who appear louder, bolder, or more visible. Visibility is not the same as authority. Heaven promotes those who remain steady under pressure. That moment proved you could. You may never receive human acknowledgement for that choice, and that is intentional. God rewards privately what he tests privately. Public affirmation can corrupt what was meant to refine. If you ever wondered why God allows chosen ones to experience moments of unfairness, this is why. Fairness reveals nothing. Pressure reveals posture, and posture determines assignment. That test also prepared you for greater responsibility ahead. Not heavier burdens, but clearer direction. Not louder battles, but deeper discernment. God does not rush those he trusts. Remember this when future moments feel similar. Not every challenge is opposition. Some are confirmation. Some are heaven checking alignment before release. You are not being watched in fear. You are being observed in trust. Heaven is not waiting for you to fail. It is watching to see when you are ready. That moment was proof, and it will not be the last. Why God trusted you with that moment. Chosen one, God did not trust you with that moment by accident. Trust from heaven is never random, never emotional, and never rushed. God does not place weight on those who are not prepared to carry it. That moment came to you because your life, your character, and your spiritual posture quietly proved something long before you realized it. God trusted you because you have been shaped through pressure. While others were comforted, you were refined. While others were distracted, you were isolated. Those seasons were not signs of rejection. They were training grounds. God was watching how you handled silence, delay, misunderstanding, and disappointment. Each response revealed depth. Trust is not built on perfection. It is built on consistency. God does not look for flawless people. He looks for teachable ones. You have shown that you can be corrected without becoming bitter. You have shown that you can be delayed without becoming resentful. You have shown that you can be misunderstood without losing integrity. That matters in heaven. God trusted you because you learned restraint without losing compassion. Many people learn restraint by hardening their hearts. You did not. You learned how to pause without becoming cold. You learned how to protect your spirit without closing it. That balance is rare. He trusted you because you did not chase validation. There were moments when you could have explained yourself, defended your name, or demanded recognition. Instead, you chose peace. That choice revealed confidence in God's covering. Heaven values those who do not need applause to remain obedient. God trusted you because you understand timing. You learned when to speak and when to remain silent. You learned that not every truth needs immediate expression. You learned that wisdom often waits, that maturity allows heaven to move without resistance. He trusted you because you survived disappointment without abandoning faith. Some of the hardest tests you faced were not attacks but unanswered prayers. You waited, you questioned, you wrestled internally, yet you remained anchored. God noticed that endurance. God trusted you because you learned humility without diminishing your worth. You do not need to announce who you are. You do not need to compete spiritually. You are comfortable letting God reveal you in His time. That humility keeps pride from contaminating authority. He trusted you because you do not misuse influence. Even when people listened to you, you chose responsibility over control. You understood that words carry weight. You learned to speak carefully. Heaven entrusts influence to those who respect its power. God trusted you because you listen, not just to voices but to silence. You pay attention to what feels off. You notice subtle warnings. Discernment is not loud, it is attentive. God places responsibility on those who can perceive without panicking. He trusted you because you learned obedience without fear. Fear-based obedience collapses under pressure. Your obedience grew from relationship, not intimidation. You obey because you trust God's character, not because you fear punishment. God trusted you because you endured seasons where nothing made sense and still chose alignment. You did not understand the full picture, yet you remained faithful. That ability to trust without clarity is essential for greater responsibility. He trusted you because you learned to forgive internally. You stopped carrying offenses that poisoned your peace. You released bitterness quietly. Heaven responds to inner freedom more than outward performance. God trusted you because you became emotionally disciplined. You feel deeply, but you are not ruled by emotion. You learned how to feel without reacting. That discipline protects divine order. He trusted you because you learned to wait without disengaging. Waiting did not make you passive, it made you observant. You stayed present. Heaven moves best around those who remain engaged without forcing outcomes. God trusted you because you understand that authority is not loud. You do not demand submission, you carry calm confidence. That steadiness allows angels to move freely around you. He trusted you because you have been faithful in unseen places. Obedience when no one applauds matters deeply. Heaven records what people ignore. God trusted you because you learned to surrender outcomes. You stopped trying to control results. You focused on obedience instead. That shift allowed God to work without interference. He trusted you because you protect your spirit. You learned when to withdraw, when to rest, and when to remain still. Burnout does not serve heaven. Balance does. God trusted you because you do not rush revelation. You allow God to unfold truth gradually. You do not demand answers prematurely. That patience preserves clarity. He trusted you because you carry responsibility without panic. When weight increases, you do not collapse. You adjust. That stability is rare. Chosen one, that moment came to you because you were ready, even if you did not feel prepared. God trusted what he shaped. Heaven trusted what was refined. That trust was not the end. It was confirmation. That trust did not begin in that moment, and it did not end there either. It was the result of a long process that most people never saw. God watched how you handled private pain, quiet disappointment, and unanswered questions. He observed whether hardship made you bitter or wiser. It made you wiser. He trusted you because you learned how to carry spiritual weight without becoming heavy yourself. You learned when to rest, when to withdraw, and when to remain still. Many collapse under responsibility because they never learned balance. You did. Heaven values sustainability. God also trusted you because you did not demand immediate understanding. You accepted that some things would only make sense later. That patience protected your faith. Angels move best around those who are not rushing revelation. You learned how to submit without shrinking. Submission did not make you small. It made you secure. You understood that humility is not self-rejection. It is trust in God's timing and placement. God trusted you because you learned to walk alone without becoming isolated. You did not cling to crowds for identity. You allowed God to shape you in solitude. That formed clarity. He trusted you because you learned to hold truth gently. You do not weaponize wisdom. You do not use spiritual insight to dominate others. You respect the responsibility that comes with knowing more. That moment was not about proving yourself. It was about confirming what heaven already knew. You were ready, and because you were faithful with that moment, God can now trust you with what comes next. The spiritual after effect of saving what heaven sent. Chosen one, every act of alignment creates an after effect in the spirit, even when nothing changes on the surface. Heaven never moves without consequence. When you preserved what God sent, when you aligned instead of reacting, when you cooperated instead of resisting, something shifted around you. Not loudly, not instantly, but permanently. The spiritual after effect did not arrive as a reward you could show others. It came as covering. It came as quiet protection. It came as order replacing chaos in places you did not even realize were unstable. Heaven responds to alignment the way gravity responds to structure. It settles things. After that moment, you may have noticed subtle changes. Certain dangers never reached you. Certain conflicts dissolved before escalating. Certain paths closed without explanation. That was not loss. That was preservation. God does not always remove you from storms. Sometimes He weakens the storm itself. You may also have noticed an internal shift, a deeper calm, a steadier mind, less urgency to explain yourself, less need to control outcomes. That peace was not emotional numbness. It was spiritual security forming. Heaven had confirmed your posture, and that confirmation settled your spirit. When alignment is recorded, protection increases quietly. Angels are reassigned. Coverage expands. Not because you earned favor, but because order was proven. Heaven builds around stability. You became a stable point. Some of you experienced delays after that moment and misunderstood them as resistance. They were not resistance. They were buffering. God was slowing things down to protect you from premature exposure. After alignment, heaven becomes more careful, not more aggressive. You may also have felt more sensitive afterward, less tolerant of chaos, less comfortable in certain environments. That was not weakness. That was refinement. When order increases internally, disorder becomes harder to tolerate externally. There is also a relational after effect. Some people drifted away. Others grew distant. Some connections faded without conflict. That was not rejection. That was alignment doing its work. Heaven does not force incompatible structures to remain connected. You were not punished with isolation. You were protected through separation. What could no longer align quietly exited. God did not explain it because explanation was unnecessary. The after effect was already working. Another after effect is clarity. You began to see situations more clearly. Red flags appeared sooner. Discernment sharpened. This was not suspicion. It was perception maturing. Heaven enhances vision after trust is confirmed. You may also have noticed that when challenges came afterward, they felt different, less overwhelming, less consuming. That is because fear lost leverage. When you know heaven is involved, panic loses power. This does not mean life became easy. It means it became ordered. Difficulty without chaos is a sign of divine structure. God does not remove all challenges. He removes confusion. Another after effect is restraint becoming natural. What once required effort now feels instinctive. You pause automatically. You sense timing more clearly. This is growth. Alignment reshapes instinct. Some of you noticed that prayer changed afterward. Less begging, more listening, less desperation, more trust. That shift is significant. Heaven responds quickly to calm faith. There is also an after effect in how others respond to you. Some feel at ease around you. Others feel exposed. That is not intimidation. That is clarity. Order unsettles disorder. You may have noticed fewer dramatic signs, but more consistent outcomes. That is maturity. God does not rely on spectacle once trust is established. He relies on structure. Another after effect is protection from yourself. Some impulses no longer dominate you. Certain patterns lost strength. That is grace working quietly. You were also spared from future regret. Some decisions that could have cost you deeply never materialized. That is not coincidence. Heaven often protects by prevention, not intervention. You may not connect these changes to that moment, but heaven does. After effects do not announce their source. They reveal it over time. There is also a spiritual confidence that forms, not arrogance, but certainty. You trust your discernment more. You second-guess less. That is not pride. That is alignment settling. Some of you felt exhaustion lift gradually. Others felt clarity replace mental noise. Others felt emotional stability deepen. These are signs of internal order. God does not always bless outwardly after alignment. Sometimes he strengthens inwardly. Inner strength sustains longer. You may have noticed that chaos around you increased briefly. That is common. Order disrupts disorder. Do not misinterpret resistance as regression. After that moment, heaven also adjusted how it communicates with you. Less urgency, more subtlety. God speaks gently to those who listen. Angels move more efficiently around those who are steady. Less correction is needed. Less intervention is required. Alignment simplifies heaven's work. Another after effect is patience increasing. You no longer rush outcomes. You allow things to unfold. That patience protects timing. You may also have noticed that when you disobey now, it feels heavier. That is not condemnation. That is awareness. Growth sharpens conscience. This does not mean perfection is expected. It means alignment is recognized. Heaven does not forget cooperation. It builds upon it. The after effect is not a single moment. It is a trajectory. Your life quietly adjusted course. Chosen one, do not minimize what followed. God does not reward obedience with noise. He rewards it with stability. You were covered in ways you will never fully see. You were protected from outcomes you will never know existed. That is the spiritual after effect of preserving what heaven sent. And it is still working. What God expects from you now. Chosen one, now that alignment has been confirmed, God's expectation of you is not heavier, but clearer. Heaven does not respond to obedience by increasing pressure. It responds by refining direction. What God expects from you now is not perfection, performance, or spiritual exhaustion. What he expects is continued alignment carried with maturity. God expects you to remain grounded. Do not let revelation inflate you. Insight is not elevation. Understanding is not entitlement. What you have been shown is meant to stabilize you, not separate you from others. Walk gently. Walk humbly. Walk steadily. Heaven moves best around those who do not rush their importance. God expects you to protect your spirit, not aggressively, but wisely. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone. You do not need to defend your discernment. Silence will often serve you better than speech. This is not withdrawal. This is stewardship. God expects you to remain obedient in ordinary moments, not just in moments that feel spiritual. Alignment is proven daily, not occasionally. How you respond to inconvenience matters. How you handle irritation matters. How you treat people who cannot benefit you matters. Heaven watches consistency. God expects you to resist spiritual pride. Pride does not always look loud. Sometimes it looks like isolation, superiority, or impatience with others. Stay teachable. Stay open. Stay aware of your humanity. God works through humility because humility keeps channels clear. God expects you to maintain restraint, not because reaction is sinful, but because restraint preserves order. You have learned the power of pause. Continue using it. Do not rush decisions. Do not force outcomes. Timing is part of obedience. God expects you to listen more than you speak. Insight grows in stillness. Noise dulls discernment. You do not need to announce what you see. God will reveal what matters to those who need to know. God expects you to care for your emotional health. Burnout does not glorify God. Exhaustion clouds judgment. Rest is not laziness. It is obedience. Even Jesus withdrew. Follow that example. God expects you to forgive quickly, not for others, but for your own clarity. Carrying offense creates distortion. Release bitterness as soon as it appears. You do not need closure to forgive. You need freedom. God expects you to remain patient with process. Growth is gradual. Understanding unfolds in layers. Do not demand clarity prematurely. Trust timing. God reveals responsibility as capacity increases. God expects you to remain prayerful without becoming anxious. Prayer is not a place of panic. It is a place of alignment. Speak honestly. Listen quietly. Let peace settle. God expects you to maintain balance. Do not over-spiritualize everything. Live fully, work faithfully, love deeply. God is present in ordinary life, not just spiritual moments. God expects you to guard your words. Speech carries weight now. Speak carefully. Avoid unnecessary conflict. Choose clarity over intensity. Words shape environments. God expects you to remain compassionate. Discernment without compassion becomes harsh. Truth without love becomes destructive. Balance both. God expects you to accept that misunderstanding may continue. Alignment does not guarantee approval. Do not chase validation. Let God be your witness. God expects you to trust covering. You do not need to fight every battle. Some conflicts are not yours to engage. Discern when to stand and when to step back. God expects you to remain consistent. Emotional extremes disrupt stability. Stay steady. Heaven values reliability. God expects you to resist fear-based decisions. Fear distorts judgment. If peace is absent, wait. God does not rush through anxiety. God expects you to remain open to correction. Correction is protection. Do not harden when adjusted. Stay soft. God expects you to value obedience over outcomes. Results are God's responsibility. Alignment is yours. God expects you to walk forward without constantly revisiting the past. Lessons have been learned. Do not reopen what God has closed. God expects you to trust that more will be revealed when needed. Not everything must be known now. God expects you to remain faithful even when progress feels slow. Delay does not mean denial. God expects you to stay grounded in truth, not emotion. Feelings fluctuate. Truth anchors. God expects you to recognize when to rest. Fatigue distorts discernment. God expects you to walk confidently, not arrogantly. Confidence comes from trust, not superiority. God expects you to remain grateful. Gratitude keeps perspective clear. God expects you to remain available, not to everyone, but to God. God expects you to walk with integrity even when unseen. Heaven sees what people overlook. God expects you to protect your peace. Peace is not optional. It is foundational. God expects you to remain aligned even when it feels costly. Obedience always costs something, but it preserves much more. God expects you to remember that you are human. Grace covers growth. God expects you to remain teachable. Growth never ends. God expects you to remain anchored. Stability allows expansion. God expects you to continue walking, not waiting for constant confirmation. Trust has been established. God expects you to remain calm in uncertainty. Calm reveals trust. God expects you to remember that alignment is not a destination. It is a daily walk. God expects you to stay present. Anxiety pulls you forward. Regret pulls you backward. Stay now. God expects you to walk gently with others. Not everyone is where you are. God expects you to remain faithful to small things. Small obedience carries large impact. God expects you to keep your heart soft. Hardened hearts lose discernment. God expects you to rely on Him, not on insight alone. God expects you to remain obedient even when tired. God expects you to remain hopeful without forcing optimism. God expects you to remain steady. Chosen one, this is not pressure. This is clarity. Walk forward. Stay aligned. Heaven knows you are ready. Conclusion, confirmation, peace, and alignment. Chosen one, take a breath and let this settle. This message did not reach you by accident. It reached you because you were ready to understand it without fear, without pride, and without confusion. Heaven does not reveal truth to disturb you. It reveals truth to anchor you. What you heard today was not meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to confirm you. You are not imagining your journey. You are not overthinking your experiences. You are not walking alone. God has been involved in your life far longer than you realized, guiding quietly, protecting intentionally, and trusting you more deeply than you knew. What felt ordinary carried weight. What felt small carried purpose. And what felt unseen was fully seen by heaven. Let peace replace doubt now. You do not need to figure everything out. You do not need to rush ahead. Alignment is already working in your favor. Continue walking gently. Continue listening closely. Continue choosing obedience in small moments. Heaven honors consistency more than intensity. If this message resonated with your spirit, that is confirmation. Rest in it. Carry it calmly. Let it strengthen you rather than excite you. You are exactly where you need to be. Before we close, chosen ones, give a like to this video if it spoke to you, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this peace and clarity. And comment 777 in the comments as a sign of alignment, confirmation, and trust in God's timing. Walk forward in peace. Heaven is with you.